Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new session of Inside Out Leadership. Thank you so much for joining today, and for those joining us for the first time, welcome to the family. Our group brings together like-minded people desiring change towards inner refinement and helps us accelerate our personal growth. As the world is entering a new phase, going forward, it's important for us to change along with it. All of us have been lax for the past year and maybe a little bit too complacent. But as the world gets back to normal, we need to start pulling up our socks and start doing all the things we've been putting off. Today's session is very special, and it's all about making goals happen. Setting our goals is very easy, but achieving them is not always as simple. This evening, we're going to dive deeper into what it means to set a target and eventually achieve it, so stay tuned. Before we begin, let's quickly go over the ground rules for today's session. The session is a safe space for all of you joining today, so please feel free to interact and share with us your opinions and questions through the chat box. We have a dedicated segment towards the end of our session to tend to all the questions, so please keep them coming. Please try not to use your phone throughout the session unless necessary. It'll help you focus on the learnings of the day. Also, what happens in the circle stays in the circle. Please try to stay until the end of the session. We promise you won't regret it. So, moving on, our speaker for today is a very accomplished and inspirational figure. In his own words, today's session is going to help you understand why goal realization can be hard, the power model of goal realization, and finding and keeping momentum with our goals. Mr. Manish Arneja was born in India and currently lives in Singapore. He has broad global experience as both an internal and external consultant, and has also spoken at various international platforms and has trained leaders in diverse organizations and several countries. He has an MBA from the Asian Institute of Management and is currently the managing partner at the Resilience Institute. He's passionate about building the capacity of leaders to thrive sustainably. Welcome, Mr. Arneja. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Roshali, for having me as well. And would love to see you in the screen as well. Seems like your camera is off. Happy to join the session on Inside Out.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for being here with all of us. And it's such a joy and such a pleasure and honor to have you. So over to you, and let's get started. And I'm sure our audiences are very excited to hear from you, all of the things, tips and tricks that you're going to share with us tonight.
But is there anything in specific that people would have asked? Do you want to do some questions first, or should we just go through and talk about some key frameworks?
Yeah, I think we can lay down some framework and then head over to questions.
Okay, thank you, Roshali. Thanks everyone for joining in. I know it's a Saturday afternoon. For a lot of you, you could be doing hundreds of other things, and you decided to take on that opportunity to focus on yourself and helping you to take your goals forward. Now, as everyone, I also have my own challenges. It's not like always I win and always I'm able to achieve some goals, and sometimes I fail. We are all human beings. But today, the intention for the session is to give you some perspective so that you can take it forward in your life and share some practices on what we do work in the area of Resilience Institute, when we work with athletes and we work with leaders on how they can sustain their momentum as they work on their goals. So today, when we were crafting off the session, Roshali, I thought to just share with you, what does goals do to us? We all know that goals are really important. We want to achieve them, but something happens and, they fizzle off. And people know that in the beginning of the year, we are very excited and inspired and we want to achieve things. And the gym membership in the January month is spiked up. But later, February, March, people are just wasting their money. Or you make so much determination and things don't fly. So, there are lots and lots of books, right, Roshali, where we can read about how to make goals happen. Today, I'm going to just share with you what are some practical practices that people follow, when I have coached hundreds of leaders, what they have done in keeping things moving, and then we'll take some questions. Yeah, would that be okay?
Sounds wonderful. Sounds amazing. I'm sitting here with a notebook and pen, so let's begin.
Okay, so I think everyone it'll be great to understand this, the biology and psychology of goals, right? So like we have aircon in our room, yeah? And when you set up a thermostat for the aircon at 21 degrees, and if the temperature goes up, it comes down to 21. Same happens with our inner body. We have something like a thermostat, we call this homeostasis, which helps us to regulate where we are, and we stay at that level most of the time. So for example, right now in COVID, a lot of us go to malls and they check your temperature, and it's always 36.2. When you run, it go up or down, or when you're feeling cold in rain, but it comes back up at the same level. Same thing happens with our homeostasis. When we are trying to achieve something, you move forward, but we come back to homeostasis. You lose 2 kgs and you come back to your own level. Now, the goals are usually trying to create some imbalance. So from the space we have a comfort zone, our homeostasis is fine, our blood is moving at the same space, our breathing is at the same level. As soon as you change it, it puts a lots of pressure on our system. And what happens is that it creates a lot of discomfort for us. Correct? I'm sure you know that. Like, even if you change a little bit of a perspective, even if you try to do a weight loss or trying to do sleepless nights to make things happen, or you're pushing through the boundaries, or you're trying to build some relationships, the problem is that this discomfort zone where we have to reset our homeostasis is a challenge. And most of the people know, Vishali, that to go to the green zone, to get to the great space, we have to pass through that discomfort.
So true. Yep, absolutely.
And 95% will go back, right? Because in that discomfort, my mind will start to make some noise. My emotions will get triggered. My body will be fatigued, tired, exhausted, and we'll say, you know what? It doesn't make sense. Let's go back, because homeostasis will always win. So we really need to understand how to get past through that discomfort zone so that we can see the green light and we become a different person. So here I have a few perspectives. The first one, we call this a power model, and I'm going to share that slide with you so you can take a picture, and I'll pass this through with you. So if you allow me to share screen, that will be useful.
Yeah, you can go ahead and share.
So in this power model, if you can take a pen and a paper, I'm just going to put these 5 things forward for you. And I'll just explain it. If you have any questions come up, Rushali, as I'm sharing this with you, you can ask. But it's a very, very simple model. You can put it on your desktop. You can review it over and over again. And when your goals are not happening as you want to, remember these 5 key practices. Starting with, how do I give power to my goals? Starting with prioritizing. And I'll talk about this very shortly. How do you bring some ownership back? How do you create some will? How do you create some environment? How do you put some ritualizing perspectives? Yeah, everyone got that? So the 5 areas. I hope you got the pen and paper.
Absolutely. I've already taken a picture. Sneakingly, I've taken a picture.
Okay, Vishali, fantastic. So let's talk about the first one, which is around priorities. Yeah. Now, many of you are working in organization, right? Many of you are doing, so you are some of you are entrepreneurs, some of you are studying, some of you are in the university. When we talk about priorities, that is a starting point. You cannot underestimate the power of setting some priorities towards your goals. The reason why January is a great month for people to move forward with their gym membership or lose some weight, because people set priorities in the end of December. Because people set some priorities, and that creates some motivation. Now, in this world we live in, most of the things we set priorities to is my work priority, my university priorities, my education priorities, my team priorities, my parents, or etc., whatever I want to do. And that becomes a lot of our habits. It becomes something that I live with every day. I do same rituals. It becomes urgent. I have no time. Now, the starting point for us is to write that down. Very simply, the more you write it, the more you're aware of it, the more it's in front of your mind, our ability to move forward towards our goals will be very easier, much easier. There are many studies by various institutes talk about the people who have written goals, including Harvard. just by asking one of the MBA students to check people who had written their goals and had a precise understanding of when are they going to do the goal, they were able to achieve much better results. Now, what does that mean for you? I want to ask all the audience who have joined here, not only your work priorities, do you have your own priorities set? Exactly. That every week, you know that not my work priorities, what is important for me, I have written down. And it's clear in front of me that what I want to achieve. Maybe my fitness goals, maybe my relationship goal. Some of you say, you know what, I want to make a great relationship with my boyfriend. Okay, what is your goal with your boyfriend? What is a relationship goal? Have I written that down in clear, specific measures that, okay, I want to have some fun and excitement with my boyfriend, or I want to have XYZ by that amount of time. And not just in January, every week, every Sunday, every Monday, the more you have it in front of you, the more it will be easier for making that happen. Now, you have heard, you may have read the book Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, popular, right? And in that he talks about an urgent and important matrix, and it's called the Eisenhower Matrix. If you haven't seen that, it's a very good matrix to look at, to just Absolutely. Look at every week, at the end of the week, look at how much of the time I spend in things which are urgent and not important, and not urgent, not important. I can promise you, the only valuable asset you have is our time. And if you don't even focus on the important areas, the time will fly. 1 week will pass, 2 weeks will pass. So it could be a very small, like a post-it, a paper for your own personal goals that are in front of you. And I'm going to say that again and again, it out of sight, out of mind. So the priorities should be clear. Absolutely. And how precise it is, the timing, if you have something on that, would be really useful. So that's number one. Any thoughts coming to your mind, Vishali?
I totally agree with you. I actually do practice this habit. I do have a weekly planner, and I do find it very, mentally satisfying and very, like it's very easy for me to visualize my whole week when I have it written down. I feel like that also makes me feel a lot better about the goals that I've set for myself because I'm not overwhelmed by them. So say on a Sunday morning, I get up and I plan my days accordingly, because I have to balance class, I have to balance work, like you said, exercise, fitness, all of these things. So I like to visualize it, like you said. I like to visualize it by seeing it in front of me in the planner, and I know exactly when I wake up on each day in the morning what I need to do is already written down and planned ahead of time. And like you said, it's so helpful in the sense of, okay, I already know my Tuesday from like say 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'm doing this and so on and so forth. And I totally agree with what you said. Out of sight, out of mind. I feel like if you don't visualize your goals for the week, you're gonna forget them, or you're not gonna be motivated enough to do them.
Absolutely. And it may be a very small thing. I mean, I'm sure it's not the end to achieve our goals, but the starting journey is to prioritize. And there have been, when we work with organizations, if you look at companies, they have their strategic planning, they have their goals. Even for sales, people have goals. There have been studies done. One organization has no goals for certain rituals, for example, how many boards they are going to do. And they suddenly said, okay, today you are doing 80, our goal is to do 90 next week. The motivation, the momentum, the homeostasis of people started to go to 90 boards a minute. You know what I mean? So just because people had no goals, why this works? Okay, let's talk about why from the psychology perspective. Our brain can focus on multiple things. We have multiple areas to think about. When we start to put some priorities, our brain gets into a bit of a tunnel vision to look at what do I need to focus on at this time period. That will be my priority. And so when you write it down, when it's in front of you, it's much clearer for us. And that's why people have some, reminders, bands, many other things to just remind them what my goal is, a vision board. I'm sure many other techniques are available, but prioritizing, declaring, making that available is important. So that's P. Now, the second point that I want to talk about is the ownership. Now, the ownership is a very, very interesting perspective. Whose goals are these, first of all? Yeah, whose goals are these? It's my goal, right? You want to achieve something. in your wealth, in your financial freedom. You want to do something for your fitness, in your relationships, in your work. We get really excited by it. We have our motivation to make these happen, but we let go of these ownership very quickly. And how we do that is because we get trapped by our thoughts and the emotions that come in our way. Now, when I talk about thoughts and emotions, it's very easy for all of us to let go of the power, let go of our ownership by using certain words and listening to our thoughts and giving away our power. So one of that would be justification.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when I justify, so for example, I cannot go to the gym because I'm too tired, or I need to have 2 glasses of beer because today's Friday night, or I would victimize myself, always say, oh, this is my fault. I'm always like this. I'm always being fat, and all those things will come through you. Yeah. Or we could say just complain about my wife. My husband doesn't do this, or my school is like that, or it's because of COVID. All this drama happens. Now, where does this drama gets generated? That drama gets generated in my mind. And that's not a real human being. That is just a thought that has created in my mind that has taken me away from my ownership of my goals. And people don't understand that perspective because they give so much power to this thought. That means the thought has become bigger than me. I victimize myself. Okay, my God, life has become so difficult. Or I complain or I justify things. So who has got more power? The thought, right?
Correct.
And that's why people who are more centered, people who are understanding the perspective of thoughts is a great place to get back the ownership. Now, one simple tip that I would invite you to take is the moments you give away your ownership.
Mm.
The moment you give away the ownership is to watch out those moments. Now, those moments happens very, very quickly. Within a thought, you take an action. You go to a party, you're feeling hungry, you're feeling some craving, the thought comes in, you take an action. And for making back the ownership to you, I'm going to give you some practices. The first point for you is to pause. Pause. And that pause can be a game changer for many, because many people say, you know what, I have written down on my goals, I have prioritized things, but something happens to me that as soon as I meet this person or when I do this, my life just runs over. Because there's some trigger happens, my emotion starts to make some noise, I'm getting frustrated, I'm angry, I'm feeling craving for something, and I take an action because the emotion has become bigger than myself. So what I need to do is to understand, okay, my emotions and thoughts someplace, and I can put them to the side. And that I can do is when I bring my cognitive brain, my frontal lobe back in action, because I'm not triggered by my limbic brain, my habits, my autonomous nervous system, my subconscious brain. I need to do something which is like a pause. So when you do some pause, which is could be like 5 breathings, just 5 breathings through breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, the emotions will go. You'll say, oh, wow, I was craving for ice cream. That's gone. I am sure many of you say, you know what, at the evening, I'm dying for some Netflix. In the morning, it's like, wow. Or maybe in the evening, it's like, you know what, I really want to have that ice cream. I cannot live without it. I really want it. 2 minutes later, your friend comes in, your mom calls you, the ice cream is gone because your focus has gone somewhere else. You've taken a pause and now the craving has disappeared. You go to a mall, you see some, right now you can't go because of COVID, but let's say you go to sorry, my camera blurred off. And you can't, and the time passes by. So one simple practice, if you want to take back the ownership, is to have some pause. And few simple practices. One practice could be taking a breath. So all those audience who are here, I would like you to visualize the last time when you gave away your power, when you thought of the time I took an action that I didn't want to take.
Mm-hmm.
Or I got stuck with my habit. Let's say I was promised myself that I'm going to watch only one series of the Netflix. And then the 10-second passes and I made another habit and I didn't stop. That 10-second pause, that's why they just don't let you in 10 seconds, they go passes really quickly. So in that 10 seconds, you just focus on your breathing. You bring yourself back to your present. You bring yourself back to the present. Anything that can bring you back to the present could be useful. The other mantra that I use really useful for me is to remind myself, it's just a thought. It's just a thought. My thought is not my action. To remind myself, this thought is just an electromagnetic wave sitting in my head. It does not mean that I have to take that action. And the more you start to practice, your muscles in your cognitive brain, your wise brain, your frontal lobe will start to have more neuroconnection. Now, it may sound silly for you, but I can promise you that could work. So I'm just curious to see if people have some comments coming in, or you have any.
People do have lots of comments. Do you want me to say a
Sure.
couple of them?
Sure.
So someone has said on here, what happens if I've written all my goals down, but I can't follow anything?
Okay, so let's finish all the 5 areas and we'll see where the gap is. Okay, so the first point is you have written down, you have prioritized, but maybe you're missing out on the ownership, on the will, or the environment, or the ritualizing. Okay, so we'll park that for now and we'll see if that answers his question or not, because I know that's the starting point. P doesn't make the end goal met. Maybe he's missing out on ownership. Maybe he gets triggered and then he writes it down and boom, his whole subconscious brain starts to take over when situation happens. Or maybe the will goes away.
Yeah. And then someone else had said, what if there's a sudden change in my schedule? What do I do?
What if there's a sudden change in my schedule?
So like they've planned their whole week, but then suddenly there are unforeseen circumstances and they have to like readjust and reaccommodate their week.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that on R. So remember the one who has asked that question, we'll talk about the point here in the last practice of if your week gets into difficult, what can I do? Okay, any other question linked to this?
Well, besides that, right now, everyone is just enjoying everything. Someone actually, a comment just came in. Is thought the mother of all action?
Thoughts and emotions, mostly. I mean, it could be environment, it could be thoughts, it could be emotions, but most of the time, your thoughts get generated, you take an action. And if you don't pause, you get succumb to the thought. So I would say most of the time, the biggest thought, the mother of all action is your biology, whatever happening in your body. And that's generating some thoughts also. So we'll talk about that as well later.
Wonderful. Good. And everyone's enjoying the session as of now. Everyone is, giving you a thumbs up. So I think we're good to move on.
Okay, so my practice, it's not in the book that I came with it, but I really think that one thing that has worked for me is to remind myself of that 10 seconds. And that 10 seconds could be anything. You can make your own mantra. Mine is, it's just a thought. If sometimes an emotion comes in, I'll say, okay, I'll talk to you after 10 minutes. I'll talk to you after 10 minutes. So if your laziness, if your subconscious mind, if anything is coming through for you, is to have a chat with them, or to take a breathing practice to bring yourself back into present, whatever is happening right now, rather than being caught up in the drama of listening to it, not listening to it, just bringing back yourself to get back the ownership. The third point is around will. Yeah, and that's where sometimes people's motivations goes away. Now, when I have to think about will is where I would be propelled not by my previous habits. I have to be propelled by my goal, my vision. Yeah, I may have written it down, but I don't feel that there is some motivation. So where the motivation comes from, I need to be really clear of where am I going to get that motivation. The one motivation that really can help you is around setting up why this goal is important for me. Why this goal is important for me. And not just because I want to get good grades, but in terms of the purpose. How would it help me to make a different human being? Or for example, the people who have really related, let's say I want to run a marathon. I mean, let's say Boston Marathon, right? You were in Boston, you said?
That is correct.
Yeah, so, in Boston, there was a bomb attack, I guess, if sometimes 2013, sometime. And the guy who won the next time, he wore the T-shirt of all the people with the names of all the people who lost their lives. And he won the Boston Marathon, coming as number 1. The reason is because there was a huge clarity on the purpose. Now, sometimes people, realize that I'm going to live only 2 years down the road, and suddenly they become happy. They started achieving all their goals, or They say, oh, I'm going to get married in 2 months down the road. I lose all the weight and try to make things happen because there's a clear purpose. For the sake of what am I doing it? And if you have that clarity of what is the particular reason that propels me for this goal, the more motivation you will have. So make sure that it's not just about you, it's maybe something broader than yourself, something that you would achieve for your family, something that you may achieve for humanity, something that you may achieve for bigger goals in your life. So for example, I want to be first in the class. Okay, why? For the sake of what do you want to be first in the class? I want to lose 5 kgs. For the sake of what? Why do you want to lose 5 kgs? And keep asking, why? Why? For the sake of what? For the sake of what? For the sake of what? Because I want to look better than my friends. Okay, for the sake of what? Because I think if I look better, I feel confident. Okay, for the sake of what do you want to be confident?
Right.
Because I don't trust myself. Okay, for the sake of what you don't trust yourself? So I want to look good because it will help me with my confidence. And now there's a bit of a purpose that a person has placed with. Yeah. So the more you dig deep down into what's my purpose that will drive me, it will be really useful. The
I
other
think
way,
that's what's really missing these days. I think for us young people is our goals sometimes are so superficial. We don't even know why we're doing them.
yeah.
We don't even know why we're carrying out a certain action or why we've set this goal. So I think this is a great point that you've made.
And that is happening all throughout, not only for youth, for leaders, for sports,
Absolutely.
for people who are driving something. When you have a clear purpose, things will move. Yeah, I have spoke to one of the guy in one of the big companies. He's doing digital marketing. I was coaching him yesterday only, and his level of motivation towards his goal, even though he's really busy, he's stressed out because he's changing the digital system for the whole retail chain across the Asia Pacific. And the purpose, I could really see how he feels connected to being the expert in digital and how he will shape the lives of people who are losing their jobs in retail, because that lots of retail stores are closing now.
Right.
People are losing jobs, and he feels that his responsibility is to save their lives, because if the retail chase goes down and if the digital sales of his stores pick up, people will not have to lose their jobs. So every day he's waking up to think, how can I save one more person to work, stay in the stores? Yeah. Okay, so that could be one way to bring some purpose. The other way that you can bring some will is to play with your emotions. Many of the time, when we don't when we don't meet our goals, what we do is we beat ourselves up. Oh, you're stupid, you're ugly, you never win, blah blah blah, and we actually manifest a self-fulfilling prophecy of doing what we don't want to do. Yeah, you ate something. What you do is we keep our wills down because we beat ourselves up. I'm always like this. I'm not happy. I'm not good enough, or um, I will never be able to achieve. That's one side of playing with your emotion, which is criticizing yourself, feeling guilty, feeling regret. Now, the other side, how you can build up motivation, is to, when you do something small, you make sure that you boost it up with 2 or 3 key emotions. A, pride. If you went for your yoga class, if you went for a 5 minutes run, if you spoke to your friends nicely, if you started to do something in towards your goal, after you finish that, your intention should be to spend some time in positive emotion. What am I proud of? Okay, my mind was running that I don't want to go for a run, and I did go for the run. I'm so proud of myself. And spend 1 minute, maybe 30 seconds to immerse yourself that feeling of pride, because your body will say, oh, this is good, this is good, I want to do it tomorrow. We don't do that. You know what? Let's say you were lazy and you still made a decision to go out. After you come back from a run, you go shower, you run, nothing. I would like you to stop after you finish that run. Even if you didn't finish 10 kilometers, you did 7 or 8. After the 7, 8 kilometers, you said, in this session, I learned I need to build that pride, because tomorrow the same event will happen. My emotions of proud will start to build me, take me forward. And the second emotion that you can play with is hope. Hope. Now, when I talk about hope, I'm saying these things are not in the books. These are things which I have learned playing with coaching people and people who are building their performance practices. Now, what happens is, let's say I'm just giving you the example of fitness, because a lot of people talk about fitness as one of the goals, is their focus goes tunnel vision. So let's say you want to go for a run and you feel lazy. So your mind will go on thinking that, oh, it's so boring, it's cold, it's raining. Instead of focusing on before the event, you focus on the emotion after the event. I hope for what will happen after I have achieved that outcome. Does it make sense? So in that space, you are shifting your emotional focus after the event.
Absolutely. I think that this is something we call positive feedback, where you kind of focus on the good things after that you can achieve after the event, and that kind of reinforces you and kind of motivates you to want to do them.
Yeah,
So that's
absolutely.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was listening to one podcast, and one of the very successful guy, he says, I just want to feel that next day I would feel proud of myself that I did not eat that, or I did not do this thing, or I did not have my cigarette.
Absolutely.
Um, the other way people do is negative reinforcement, to say, you know what, is this action is going to make me regretful tomorrow? Is this action going to make me feel regretful tomorrow? Just any reminders that helps you to bring that will forward in towards the hope would be really useful. Make sense? So we talked about three things here, everyone. Priorities, starting point. Second one is catching your thoughts, which is more around ownership. So rather than naming it to justify, to blame, to become a victim, to just understand, these are my thoughts, they pass. These are my thoughts. When you get caught up with them, just let them pass. The third point is my will. And for my will, I really need to understand my purpose. What's driving me? The second point we talked about is playing with emotions. Two of them, pride, hope, and third one is gratitude, and where you feel gratefulness, abundance for a great health, abundance already for what you have already, rather than saying, oh, I haven't got this, I'm so weak, I haven't achieved that.
Absolutely. That is so important.
In the present moment, however I am, I'm awesome. So when you build these three emotions as your reservoirs, your body, your emotions, your mind are going to say, you know what, I'm going to make this happen because I am my best friend. Most of the people are feeding guilt, 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 regret, regret, regret when they don't do things, rather than focusing on when they do things, how they should use that emotion to propel them forward. The fourth one is, I'm sure many of you know, is environment. Power E is environment. And that is very basic, which is to set yourself some way that the environment will propel you to take that action. Let's say you want to drink a liter of water, drink a liter of water every day, or 2 liters of bottle, 2 liters of water. I just give you an example. So this is my environment. This bottle is 1 liter bottle. I said, okay, I'm going to take 2 liters of water every day. I just need to finish 2 bottles of water. Now, if I don't have this, then I have to go to the desk, get some water. I don't even know if I'm doing so. My Garmin is my environment. My sleep tracking is happening through my Garmin. It's very simple practices. Or it could be an environment where you get a coach, when you have classes, you're joining somewhere, or when you have an environment where people are supporting you. That means your relationships, people you hang out with, is creating an environment for you to make things happen. Right now, we stick around with people who are the opposite of my goals. Yeah. So just be, and there's no fixed rule. In terms of health, a great environment is like-minded people. In terms of wealth, is like-minded people. In terms of what I want to achieve is, sorry, my camera is getting blurry. In terms of other things, is like-minded people. The other thing that can create environment is when you declare post the event, how would that feel like for me? Like, for example, you say you want to run a marathon, you declare it on Facebook, you declare it on Instagram, you're creating an environment of cheerleaders. So when you have already declared it, there's no way out. Yeah, you say, I'm going to write a book, you publish the front cover, I'm sure that environment will propel you because you have made that commitment in public, and now public will push you to make things happen. Does it make sense?
Absolutely. The great point, because I just learned something, from you as you were speaking, that it's not necessary, not just our physical environment, but also like environment is also about the way we create our environment. We always tend to blame our circumstances, or like, oh, my parents don't support me, my friends are like this, or I just feel like, oh no, this is not, we always focusing on our like environment, our immediate environment and the people in it, but we often forget that we create our own environment as well, which actually I never have thought of. I haven't thought of this in so long, and you just brought it up, which is brilliant, that you have so much control over your environment. Make it happen the way you want it to.
Yeah.
And
And
that's so
before the
important.
event happens, before the event, like for example, you could think of, okay, what kind of music do I want for this? Or what kind of, if I have to work, I'm in a rattle space, that's not going to happen. If I'm keeping my phone around me, that's not going to happen. If I really want to achieve success, what's the environment I want to create that will support me to make it happen? Do I want 3 or 4 study groups? Nobody thinks it consciously. People
Yeah.
think, oh, environment will happen subconsciously. That doesn't happen. If I want to achieve my goals, that environment perspective, people who are going to support me, my phone has to be away. I'm just giving a simple practice. This
Mhm.
is a watch which keeps me on time. Right now we are at 8:36. I thought we will finish in a simple environment for me to make sure I'm consciously creating that space that we finish on time, we keep to time. All those small things can make a small difference, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if you can think, list down the things that has supported you in that environment and dial them up, can be a great propeller. And the last point, which is and I'm going to stop here, is about R, which is ritualizing. So a lot of us
Mm.
lose motivation because they think that this discomfort zone is where they lose traction. The problem is we set too big a goals. You think your homeostasis is a very small thing? No, it's a very, very big mass. To move that mountain, you can't do it in big pieces. You can't eat the whole thing in one go. You start very small. If you're starting big, you're gone. So if you think, oh, I'm going to do 5 days of running and I'll run the marathon, forget about it. If you think that I'm going to make things happen because life is tomorrow, should be losing weight in the next week, forget about it. We think life is a sprint, we have to achieve everything in 2 months. They forget that if I continue this small practice 2 years, I would be a totally different person.
Yeah.
We forget the time zone we have to live 40 years, 50 years. I don't have to be an athlete tomorrow. If I continue these small practices, I may become an athlete in next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So please don't stop onto the horizon of time. My invitation for you is to start small and make sure there is a ritual which is so small that your brain doesn't feel stress.
Mm.
And it could be as simple as tying up with a regular practice. Let's say you want to do a yoga, you want to be good in yoga. I'm not saying you go for a yoga class every day because your brain say, oh, 1 hour, forget about it. You say, I'm just going to do a stretch, 4 side stretch every day, that I get into a routine. And when you get into a routine, your brain will ask for more. Your oxytocin, your endorphins, all those things will ask for more of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. That is so true. Like every action, every foot forward that you put, as they say, baby steps. So
Yeah.
every step you take in the right direction, it all adds up eventually, and you're able to get there at some point. What I love what you said, we always focus on short-term goals and short-term results, and everything is so evidence-based. Like we need results right now. But
Yeah.
that is not always the case. It's important to sort of, like you said, run that marathon, like literally and metaphorically speaking, to be able to set goals and make it into a habit and make them into rituals, so we're able to achieve them over time, instead of expecting a miracle to happen. And okay, so I've been dieting for 10 days, I want to lose like 5 kgs. Like that's not realistic.
Yeah.
In order to achieve our goals realistically, we need to make it a lifestyle, not just sort of instant gratification where we
Yeah.
do
And
something and we expect it to happen right away.
absolutely, Vishali. And what one thing happening in with the social media is we're meeting people, either they're fake, so they're not really have achieved that thing,
Mm.
or they have achieved it because we are seeing the final product. You have no idea what they have done for the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and we want to be them now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my invitation is for you to, oh, I want to be a blogger. I want just do something small that is a process, not an outcome. Don't worry about the outcome. Outcome will follow. Right now is to ritualize something that will make it a part of your habit. Think of habit rather than thinking of the outcome that you're after. And that would be a one key practice I would all remind everyone. So the one person who asked that question in terms of, oh, I start with goals but I lose motivation because you have taken a big goal. I would start with a small practice. anytime. And a great way to ritualize that is to do it in the morning. So whatever that you have started to do, you want to write something, you want to do something well, you want to speak something, use that in the time when you have least interference. And that's why a lot of people talk about morning hour. A lot of people say our testosterone are high, our focus, mental focus is great during those times. So it's a great practice to set some rituals during those times.
Wonderful. This power model that you've shared with us, it's already a hit for like I'm gonna start using this myself. Every time I feel like I'm deviating, I'm gonna take that 10-second pause that you were talking about and just kind of soak it all in and breathe. Like you said, just breathe.
Okay.
So thank you so much for your absolutely brilliant insights. These were some great thoughts and some great tips and tricks. They were so practical, and the audience is like loving it. The comments are pouring in. So we're going to quickly move on to a set of questions that I would like to personally ask you before we move on to audience questions. So these are things that are very common. I'm sure that other people will resonate with what I have to ask you. Many people are of the view that it's always easier said than done. So what practical trick have you observed, that is successful in providing us with, daily motivation?
Daily motivation. I mean, motivation is a big word, so I don't use it because it has no meaning. I will say emotions, or for me is momentum, which gives me daily momentum. And so the question is, what kind of practice, what kind of practical trick that would be useful? One practical trick for me is to focus on the process.
Okay.
Meaning your mind is very good to look at the outcome. Oh, am I reaching there? Am I not reaching there? Am I far away? I'm not far away. Have I made that money? Have I not made that money? Forget about it. For today, what am I doing that is taking me towards it? So the most important point is that I have to pass through that discomfort zone. And for some, it could be 5 days, some could be 5 years, some could be 10 years. So don't try to compare yourself to the outcome somebody else has achieved. Just stay every day. I'm going to keep it to a small ritual that make it happen. Focus on my process. If I want to be a great blogger, forget about that outcome right now. You have set the goal, it's your priority right now. Don't get panicky about it. Today is about what is my action that I'm focusing on. Because when you start to relate yourself, am I achieving it on time? Am I not achieving on time? Have I lost weight? No. What have I done to eat today? Am I eating in the right direction? Have I acknowledged myself with 5 minutes of run? It doesn't matter. As long as you're moving in the right direction, things will open up. So my simple practice is keep it small, focus on the process for today rather than the outcome that you would have one day or the 5 years later or others.
Absolutely. That is brilliant. I'm going to keep that in mind. What routine would you recommend as someone who's a heavily involved in the business world, someone who works on a daily basis, someone who speaks to thousands of people across the globe? What routine would you recommend to young employees or young students, taking in consideration that the pandemic has caused, a sedentary lifestyle in all of our lives? What routine would you recommend to all of us?
So there's two questions here, two things I would like to debate. If somebody has asked a question, the pandemic has caused sedentary lifestyle, so please, this is victim mentality, blaming it pandemic. That pandemic hasn't caused it. Your interpretation that I don't have that environment now, it can be challenging, but I'm sure a lot of people can achieve that. So please don't put that on pandemic. It is your rituals and habits that you got seeped into based on the environment. So that's one. Be aware of catching yourself, taking a pause that I am associating it to pandemic. Pandemic has nothing to do with the sedentary lifestyle. It is your rituals and practices you developed. I can promise you in pandemic, a lot of people have lost weight, made better connection, become much fitter, even though they have not been able to go out or they have started to invest in a house bicycle, many other things people have done. The second thing I would say for a person who is working as an employee, we think that this brain and these emotions can work super amazingly without me taking care of my body. So the one simple practice, if your motivation is going down, is to recover. You can't keep lifting weights, you can't do that. And recovery is very simple. Recovery is when my brain is sharpest the most, is when it has recovered. My muscles are the sharpest the most when I recover. My motivation is the fastest. My motivation is the most when I have recovered. So that could be focusing on my sleep. I'm going back to that topic. If you are as a youth, you think you're going to work with a high motivation, wake up tomorrow with a high motivation. If I'm sleeping at 2 and waking up at 7, it's not going to be possible because you don't have the battery to make that happen. So in that space, forget about everything. Right now is for you to recover. If you're feeling exhausted, one simple practice for you is, am I enough? Am I giving good amount of time to sleep? Am I sleeping without my Netflix, having 30 minutes before bed, no gadgets? Am I sleeping early, 10:30, or am I sleeping at 2 o'clock? That could make a huge shift in your motivation the next day.
I think we're all guilty of that a little bit here for sure. So our next question to you is, good things come to people who wait or people who hustle, as the saying goes. So which one would you choose? Would you rather wait for your goals to happen and be patient? Or would you rather be a go-getter and kind of work for it and go out there and accomplish them?
Wow, difficult question. You should be passionate for your goal, but it shouldn't make you crazy, I would say. So when I say you should be passionate, that means they drive me because I would like to improve my performance. But am I losing my daily, am I becoming more stressful because those goals have made me so imbalanced today that I'm only looking at 3 years down the road? That is not a great space. So have some targets to have a better version of yourself, but treat today as fully grateful of what you can achieve. A bit of a non-connection to the future. So have your goals, move forward in that direction, but don't get fidgety. Don't lose your calm because you don't have that here. Otherwise, your brain will get triggered. Oh, when I'll get that 1 million, then you'll have another target. And your 3 years will pass and you're 60 or 70 years old. It's like, wow, I achieved so many goals, but life lost itself. The only thing you have today is today. Right. I want to remind you, the only thing you have today is today. Your goals should not make you crazy that you lose the today.
That is true. Yeah.
So I would focus on my today, and my today is my habit. And my habit is taking me towards my goal. The rest, everything doesn't matter. So that's my answer for that.
That's some great advice. I hope everyone's taking notes right now. Next question to you is, does age matter? There's a lot of preconceived notions when it comes to when you've hit a certain age, you're expected to already be at a certain level in your life. But do you believe that when is the optimal time to start your journey of making your goals happen? And do you think that age is important or it isn't?
Okay. I mean, it's still the same thing. You're listening to your thought. You're listening to that beliefs in the world. Age has to have to happen. I can tell you many examples. The founder of KFC got it at 62, right? His recipe. Warren Buffett made 95% of his wealth after 60 years old. So it's not about the timing and age. People are fit even at later age. The point is for you to notice that voice. Why do I have a voice about my age? Why do I have a voice about my age? That means I'm justifying to this little voice sitting in my head has become much more powerful. And that voice could have been given by your environment, your parents, your colleagues. That has no power. Your choice is to not give that power, to take a break, breathe in, breathe out, bring yourself back to present, because that voice is such a small voice. And age is a factor or not a factor, I don't care. What you should care about is I'm not listening to it. You're listening to what's most important for you. Does it make sense?
This is such a beautiful piece of advice. I think it's such a great comfort coming from someone like you to hear this. So everyone out there who's listening and feels like age is no bar. And I think you said it very beautifully. And our final question to you from our side is, what is one piece of, if you had to say one thing to the audience, just one golden advice that you would want to say to them, what would you want to say?
Yeah. See, goals are important. I know we're talking about goals today, but the problem is they can make you very serious. My piece of advice is don't make your life so serious because of your goals. You should have the fun every day. Do it with lightness, do it with play. Goals are important, but they should not make you crazy. I will go back to it. If you live your life with gratitude, with proud, with hope every day, and you're moving forward and not getting caught up by poor habits, that's a meaningful life. And you may realize that the goals that you're after don't make any sense after 10 years down the road. In when you were in school, to get A level, the number one in your school might be very important. And now you look at it, wow, why was I crazy after this A grade for science in my class 6? It doesn't make sense. Correct?
That is so true. Yeah.
But you spend your whole 6th grade to get crazy about the A grade.
Yeah.
And my invitation for you is to not to take your life so seriously for their goal. Goal should propel you, make you great, but at the end of the day is your today, that you don't lose yourself because of becoming so serious about goals. And they should always propel you, because human beings are propelled for growth. You go to a beach and you have no goal for 2 months, you'll die of mental illness. 2 months, I'm not doing anything. What am I doing? In COVID, people have no goals. That's why then set some goals, but don't make them ruin your today.
That is wonderful. Now we have some few audience questions before we end the session. So first of all, people are loving all your tips and tricks, and they are relating to everything that you're saying. So the feedback is just great. Someone has asked, this is a wonderful question. Isn't it said that if you declare your goals, you are less likely to achieve them because you lose motivation?
Wow, very good. It's a contradictory point. So there are a few books written in both a positive way and negative way. When you declare the goal, so the positive thing that happen is you get support from the environment. Very good question. And there are also, if you go online on YouTube, there is or book written on, if you declare it too early, you feel that you have already achieved it, then you have a sense of kind of a calmness, and it doesn't happen. My point of view sharing this with you is to propel yourself forward. But at the same time, I don't believe personally that declaring in advance, if you have your motivation with you, it will take you away. But I would say there are two sides of it, to be frank. People say that, I haven't seen that research, but I've read that saying that if you declare it, it can take you, people will become lazy. Most of the time it will be propelling you, but sometimes I'm sure it may make you, maybe people lose their motivation. So it's a good catch. Well done on that. My point is to notice yourself. Is declaration a positive factor for you? If it doesn't work for you, then maybe you're on that side. For me, it has worked. For a lot of people, it has worked. Positive way.
Great. Another person has asked, this is a very basic question. I think all of us have suffered or gone through this at some point. How do we stop daydreaming? Because that comes in the way of our goals and it consumes a lot of our time.
This is rubbish. Who is doing this daydreaming? Basically, you are not engaging with life. Yeah. There is no action. You are letting your mind, your thoughts becoming bigger than you. Bring yourself back to center and realize that your thoughts are not you, just a thought. Your focus should be on action that takes you forward. So daydreaming, thinking about it, worrying about it, it is not taking you any forward. As we talked about, focus on today that takes you forward. Thinking about something doesn't help. So you just need to move, making sure that you're not succumbing to that habit. So for example, you're dreaming of, daydreaming of how will that look like? What will that look like? One is planning. Planning is good, but if it goes to the space, which is continuous loop of worrying and thinking, is useless. And I would say, please refrain. Anytime you say going mindless, busyness, not important, not urgent, do something to shift your state. Have a glass of water, walk out of the room, talk to someone, call a friend, take some push-up, do anything to get out of this loop. And that will be very important to bring yourself back and change something. You can do some jumping jacks. Anytime you get into that mental loop, just do jumping jacks, you'll be fine. You'll be out of that.
Stay active, guys. Stay active, literally. I think we'll have time for two more questions. So one question is great. This is, I think all of us, again, have really gone through this. If someone has goals but can't pursue them because of laziness or other factors that are not supporting our goals, so how do we tackle that?
So there's some laziness set in,
Mm-hmm. And other factors that are not supportive of our goals.
And there are other
Any
factors like
external, yeah, any
COVID or
external
many
factors.
other factors. So the point B, which is your accountability, and point R would be useful for you. So the first thing is when the laziness set in, when you say, oh, I'm lazy, there's something happening in your head you're talking to that, oh, I don't want to go for it because I'm lazy. Oh, is it? It's just a thought. It's just a thought. Let me come back to my breathing. Start with that. Anytime you get into that word laziness, you continue first just for 1 week. Focus on your breath, bring yourself back. Slowly and slowly you realize, actually, I have started to take some distance from that laziness, which I have already attached myself as I'm lazy. Second, R is to ritualize anything counter to laziness, where your brain starts to build some perspective. And it doesn't have to be a huge movement. It could be like, you know what, today, every day, I'm going to do something. As soon as the voice of laziness comes in, I'm going to leave sofa and go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So ritualize something when you hear that. First is to notice how many times you call yourself lazy and do something in a ritual which is so small, so easy that counters that lazy voice. So could be just
Brilliant.
standing up from your chair, could be standing up from your chair a few times.
Just anything small.
Anything that is counter. So your voice starts to lose its meaning. And when it starts to lose its meaning, it'll propel you.
That is brilliant. And our last question for today, how does one deal with procrastination? I think the whole world wants to know. It's a $1 million question.
I think there's a great TED talk on procrastination, and it's a guy has really described it really well. But we have a short amount of time on procrastination. Procrastination is a very common phenomena where we procrastinate. Few things happen on procrastination. Procrastination is where I get so fearful that the fear response is so strong for me that I'm not able to propel myself forward. And when I tip the boundary, let's say I'm at the end and I'm like, oh, I've got through that fear and it's like panic attack happening. There's no other way out. I'll move forward. The second thing that happens, emotion of fear or worry. So much worry goes on that there is action doesn't happen. So much worry goes on that the action doesn't happen because I'm just procrastinating. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. So for me, 5 practice, prioritize. One simple thing, PNR. Prioritize what is the one thing that I can do that will take me forward. Not the whole thing. Forget about the whole thing. What is the one small thing that I will do to take me forward in that direction? So let's say you're procrastinating, um, uh, sending an email to your boss or doing that project because it's so big. Yeah. So you chunk it down to a very small thing. That means I'm going to just align the first title of my deck for my PowerPoint slide. That's it. I'm not, because it's so big, the mind will get crazy with worry and fear. You chunk it down to a very small thing. So I was actually kind of procrastinating yesterday to send a proposal because I didn't have time. And I know if I would do the proposal, it'll take me an hour. I have to do a research, all that stuff. Mind gets crazy. So I said, what's my perspective? I'm just going to do the summary, first page, executive summary of the proposal. That's it. That's it. So chunk it down, forget the elephant. You chunk it to the smallest thing that you can start where your nervousness, your worry, your fear goes away. And when you do that, it'll propel you to a second direction, third direction, fourth direction.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for your amazing questions. Since we're running out of time, sadly, we can't take any more. But if you have any other questions, if you have anything that you would like to ask Mr. Arneja, please email us, and maybe we can reach out to him and have them answered at a later time.
They can also connect me on LinkedIn. My name is Manish, Manish, and last name Arneja. If you have any questions, happy to answer you there.
Wonderful. That's incredibly kind of you. Thank you. That was an incredibly riveting session. I have personally learned so much. It was so enlightening. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and experience with us. And I'm sure that our fellow learners today agree with me when it comes to that. And I hope that all of you who are watching can incorporate today's learnings into your lives, because I think that's what's more important. Mr. Arneja has also very kindly prepared a small take-home checklist for all of us. So we will be sending that to all of you eventually. You can access it and get it through our social media pages as well as our Inside Out member WhatsApp groups.
Thank you.
Thank you. And one last thing before we leave, everybody, if you could quickly respond to our Mentee poll regarding some feedback for this session, we would love it. We always love to have feedback from our audience members for our future series and sessions. So if we could please have the Mentee put up really quickly. So please use the QR code if you want, or use the code. It's 2888-9951. I will repeat. It is 2888-9951, and take a minute to respond to our mentee, and please provide us with your valuable feedback. So yeah, Mr. Arneja, you are just getting absolutely overwhelming amount of love in the chat. People have appreciated everything that you have said.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. And please, as I said, don't beat yourself up. You don't meet it. Tomorrow is a new day.
Focus Absolutely. I think it's important to be hopeful. People forget that.
Don't beat yourself up. And you don't go to the gym today, it's fine. Tomorrow is a new day. Okay? Absolutely. Have a good one. See you guys soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So thank you, everybody, for your feedback. I hope that you will respond to it. And we would love to hear what you have to say about today's session. If you want, I can repeat the Mentee code one more time. It is 2888-9951. You can go on www.mentee.com and type in that code for us. Could we display the results? Yeah, great. Great. So thank you, everybody who responded. Really appreciate it. Quickly before we go, please, I would like to remind all of you to follow our Infinite Youth Facebook page, as well as our Inside Out Leadership page on Facebook for more details and exclusively curated content. And please subscribe to the Infinite Youth YouTube channel for more exciting, meaningful, and original content prepared for the youth by the youth. One last announcement. The Heartfulness Institute, which is our parent nonprofit organization, is building a facility to take care of stray dogs that were rendered during the pandemic. They were uncared for and in a horrendous state. So they are building a state-of-the-art dog shelter to tend to these stray dogs. We have prepared a small video for you to give you some inspiration to donate into this cause, to contribute to this awesome cause. So let's play that sweet video. enjoyed that video, please do donate for the cause and save some innocent little lives. And we hope that you will donate towards the state-of-the-art animal shelter at the Heartfulness Institute. On behalf of the entire team of Inside Out Leadership, I would like to personally thank all of you to attend today's session. Please stay connected with us via all our social media channels because we will be posting and sharing new content on there every week. Once again, thank you to our brilliant and incredibly ingenious speaker, Mr. Manish Arneja, for his time and his patience. Thank you so much once again. Until we all meet again, have a great night, have a great weekend, stay healthy, and have a great one.